The Entangled Mermaid. Long ago, there lived a young mermaid who was very proud of her good looks in Dutch fairyland. She was one of a family of lake folks dwelling not far from the sea. Her home was a great pool of water that was half salt and half fresh because it lay around an island near the mouth of a river. When the sea tides were out, she splashed, played, dived, and swam in the soft water of the inland current. When the ocean heaved and the salt water rushed in, the mermaid floated and paddled to her heart's content. Her father was very proud of his beautiful daughter. He owned an island near the river mouth where the young mermaids held their picnics and parties and received the visits of young male mermaids. Her mother and two aunts were mermaids, too. All of these were sober folks and attended to the business which occupies all well-brought-up mermaids. This was to keep their pool clean and nice. No frogs, toads, or eels were allowed near, but in the work of daily house cleaning, the storks and the mermaids were great friends. All water creatures that were not thought to be polite and well-behaved were expected to keep away. Even some silly birds and all screaming and fighting creatures with wings were warned off the premises because they were not wanted. This family of mermaid folks liked to have a nice and quiet time by themselves without any rude folks on legs. Indeed, they wished to make their pool a model for all respectable mermaids around. Of course, all the mermaids in good society were welcome, but young male mermaids were allowed to call only once a month during the week, when the moon was full. Then the evenings were usually clear, so that when the party broke up, the mermen could see their way in the moonlight to swim home safely with their mermaid friends. There were sea monsters that loved to trouble the mermaid folk, and even threatened to eat them up. The mermaids, dear creatures, had to be escorted home. They felt safe because their mermaid brothers and daddies were so fierce that even the larger fish, except sharks, were afraid to come near them. One day, her daddy and mother with her two aunts left to visit some relatives near the island. They were to be gone several days. Meanwhile, their daughter was to have a party. The mermaids usually held their picnics on an island in the midst of the pool. There they would sit and sunbathe themselves. They talked about the fashions and the prettiest way to dress their hair. Each one had a pocket mirror, but no mortal ever found out where they kept these. Every once in a while they chose a queen of beauty for their ruler. Then each of the others pretended to be a princess. Their games and sports often lasted all day, and they were very happy. Swimming out in the salt water, the mermaids would go in quest of pearls, coral, and other pretty things. They would bring these to their queen, or richly adorn themselves with them. Thus the mermaid queen and her maidens made a court of beauty. While sunbathing themselves in the grass on the island, one of their members found a bush on which red flowers grew. Plucking these, she covered each one of her fingers with a red flower. Then, flopping over to the other girls, she held up her gloved hands. Half in fright and half in envy, they heard her story. After listening, the party was about to break up. Then suddenly a young male mermaid splashed into view. The tide was running out and the stream low, so he had had hard work to get through the fresh water of the river and to the island. His eyes dropped salt water as if he were crying. He looked tired while puffing and blowing, and he could hardly get his breath. The queen of the mermaids asked him what he meant by coming among her maids at such an hour and in such condition. The bashful male mermaid began to cry. Some of the mermaids put their hands over their mouths to hide their laughter while they winked at each other, and their eyes showed how they enjoyed the fun. To have a male mermaid crying among them at that hour in broad daylight was too much for dignity. The male mermaid still wept saltwater tears as he tried to catch his breath. At last, he talked sensibly. He warned the queen that a party of horrid men in wooden shoes, with pickaxe, spades, and pumps, were coming to drain the swamp and pump out the pool. He had heard that they would make the river a canal and build a dam that should keep out the ocean. "Alas!" cried one mermaid called Silver Scales, wringing her hands. "Where shall we go when our pool is destroyed? We can't live in the ocean all the time." Then she wept copiously. The saltwater tears fell from her great round eyes in big drops. "Hush!" cried the queen. "I don't believe the male mermaid's story. He only tells it to frighten us. It's just like him." In fact, the queen suspected that the male mermaid's story was all a sham. The queen believed that he had come among her maids with a set purpose to run off with Silver Scales. She was one of the prettiest mermaids in the company, young, vain, and frivolous. It was no secret that she and the male mermaid were in love and wanted to get married. So the queen, without even thanking him, dismissed the swimming messenger. After dinner, the company broke up and the queen retired to her cave to take a long sleep. She was quite tired after entertaining so much company. Since her daddy and mother were away, and it was a dark night and no moon shining on the water, why need she get up early in the morning? So the mermaid queen slept much longer than ever before. Indeed, it was not till near sunset the next day that she awoke. Then, taking her comb and mirror in hand, she started to swim and splash in the pool in order to smooth out her tresses and get ready for supper. But oh, what a change from the day before! What was the matter? All around her things looked different. The water had fallen low and the pool was nearly empty. The river was as quiet as a pond instead of flowing. Horrors! When she swam forward, What should she see but a dam and fences? An army of horrid men had come and built a dam when she was asleep. They had fenced round the swamp and were actually beginning to dig sluices to drain the land. Some were at work, building a windmill to help in pumping out the water. She knew she had bumped her pretty nose against the dam. She thought at once of escaping over the logs and into the sea. When she tried to clamber over the top and get through the fence, her hair got so entangled between the bars that she had to throw away her comb and mirror and try to untangle her tresses. The more she tried, the worse became the tangle. Soon her long hair was all twisted up in the timber. In vain were her struggles to escape. When she saw four horrid men rushing up to seize her, she was ready to die with fright. She attempted to waddle away. When she came to herself, she found she was surrounded in a safe place by all of her friends. Early in the morning, other mermaids except the Queen Mermaid had swam away safely. When they realized that the Queen Mermaid was not with them, they turned back and rescued her just on time. Since then, they lived happily ever after,